You, Chair Hyde-Smith. Thank you, Secretary Turner, for joining us today. And thank you for our discussion yesterday. I really appreciate it. Housing affordability, as you and I discussed, is a huge problem across the country. Whether you're in a red state or a blue state, a big city or a suburb, housing is just too expensive, and it's time that we did something about it. On day one, President Trump signed an executive order directing agencies to take, quote, appropriate actions to lower the cost of housing and expand housing supply, end of quote. I think we can all agree on that goal. But I worry that the administration's actions are making things worse. In fact, the president's tariffs and trade wars are making housing less affordable. Just an example from my state of New York, when you have a tariff on Canada, we get most of our wood for building new houses from Canada, and so that's just automatically going to raise your housing costs, and notwithstanding many multiples of other parts of the supply chain. At HUD, the funding freezes, delays, and contract and grant terminations have sent service providers scrambling to keep supporting residents. Housing providers and homeless shelters have struggled to pay rent on millions of housing units and make payroll. Many have had to draw on costly lines of credit, spending funds that should be spent on supporting residents. HUD is struggling to meet the most basic responsibilities after losing 2,300 employees through the deferred resignation program. All of this has created new challenges for private developers, public housing authorities, and our communities. To make matters worse, now the administration is trying to cut HUD in half. The 2026 budget requests cuts rental and homelessness assistance by over $27 billion, sets time limits on assistance, and kicks responsibility for vulnerable families to the states without any detail about how that transition is going to happen. 10% of all residential rental units are supported by HUD rental assistance. That's 5 million residential units that are worth an estimated of $900 billion. Over 500,000 of those units are in New York. HUD assistance is baked into the long-term financial stability of those properties. So if we just pull the rug out from under those renters, landlords, and property owners without any recourse, we're going to create serious economic ripples. On top of these cuts, the budget does nothing to address the funding cliff for 58,000 households that were able to escape homelessness and intimate partner violence through the emergency housing voucher program, including 9,400 who live in New York. I've visited some of those shelters. Some of them are the most life-saving, productive, helpful shelters we have for women and their children. The president wants to expand housing supply, but instead of investing in housing production, the budget eliminates funding for CDBG and home investment partnership programs. So the question is how will this administration increase the number of pieces of housing and units available? The first Trump administration's HUD budgets were all rejected by Congress on a bipartisan basis, and I expect that will happen again. Are HUD's housing programs perfect? We agree, no. I agree with you that we should focus on working together to improve them. But given the millions of lives at stake, we need to be thoughtful and deliberative. As we move forward with today's discussion about the fiscal year 26 budget, I want to remind us all of the important things that HUD does and who HUD helps. HUD assistance helps over 10 million Americans keep a roof over their head. 9 out of 10 households are elderly, disabled, or working families. It helps address the dire housing needs in Indian country. The Federal Housing Administration makes home ownership possible for first-time homeowners and actively manages over 8 million mortgages. Ginnie Mae is central to the stability of America's housing finance system, responsible for a portfolio of $2.6 trillion. So as you and I discussed, Secretary Turner, we share the goals here. We want people to have a roof over their heads. We want children to feel safe in their homes. We want homes to be livable. We want to have much higher standard housing available for more Americans. And I trust your commitment to those goals. I struggle with how we're going to meet those goals with the situation President Trump has created with regard to funding streams, with regard to staffing, with regard to all things HUD does, you'll have a massive challenge ahead of you. But I pledge to you, Chairwoman Hyde-Smith and Secretary Turner, I would like to work with you diligently on solving these massive problems. We have so many homeless children in New York. We have enough homeless teenage girls for multiple Girl Scout troops. Kids should not be growing up homeless in America. We are the richest country in the world. This is a failure, a moral and ethical failure. And as a pastor, I don't have to tell you about the Sermon on the Mount. We are called to do this work in multiple ways, not just as elected leaders, but people of faith and people of goodwill. So I trust you will work with me diligently on this for as long as you are HUD Secretary and as long as you are Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Secretary, we would love to hear your remarks.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman and Ranking Member Gillibrand. I really appreciate your opening testimonies, and I will say from the beginning that I do commit to working with you, and also want to say hello and thank you to all of the distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for this opportunity today to testify in support of President Trump's 2026 budget for the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Members, we have a small window of opportunity to help every American achieve the dream of home ownership, and that clock is ticking. As of April of this year, the national median home